Now, one of the things you probably noticed today is that we've tried to social distance as much as we can. So the transitions, we'll put videos in so that we're not close to each other, or when we're doing recognition, we'll have one here and one here, social distancing. Person I get to introduce now is a direct family member, so I don't have to social distance, which is awesome because I actually really like introducing people and being able to bring them up on stage and bring them up to the podium, which is what we're about to do. So typically what we do before we go to lunch is we get to hear kind of a state of the company address from our chairman of the board. And we are going to do that today before we head to lunch. You guys know he loves to cry. So I think this is like our 6th or 7th event. And we're gonna see if it has to do with the crowd that makes him tear up or if he still tears up in front of the camera. We'll see today. I don't know. We've got bets and side bets and even more side bets on how long it takes him to cry, because we know it's not a yes or a no, it's just how long it takes him to tear up during his presentation. But all jokes aside, Jeremiah is truly the brains behind everything we do here. He has been from day one, continues to be. Everything we do is because of him and Aaron and what they've brought and their vision. And with that, I know you'd rather hear from him than me, so with that, I'm going to bring up our chairman of the board, Mr. Jeremiah Bradley. And I know you can't applaud, so I'm going to do it for you.
Okay. Well, let's just get the crying out of the way. I'm going to think about my dog being dead or okay, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to cry. I'm going to try not to. But I am super proud about what we have going on here. Loved listening to the speakers so far. I love working with Zach and Brendan and family and obviously my wife, Erin. But there's so much about this company that I just get passionate about. I love watching you guys as reps. Show your passion, your excitement. To me, that's as important as anything. And it reminds me of when I was a kid. I was 7 years old, and my family was getting ready to go on a week-long hiking trip in the Wind Rivers. There's a big, huge mountain range, a little bit southeast of Yellowstone, Jackson Hole area. And every 2 years, my family would go on this backpacking trip. You'd hike to different lakes, go fishing. Basically, it's what I dreamed of. It's what I lived for. You know, as a kid, my 2 favorite movies were Man from Snowy River, about a guy that lived in the mountains and chased wild horses, and then My Side of the Mountain, about a kid who runs away and lives in the mountains. I think he gets like a pet peregrine falcon and a raccoon and just does all of these things. And I think the Canadians will love that because I think that was actually up in Canada. But those are the things that I lived for as a kid. I actually started planning on how I could run away. In fact, I used to do it with Zach. My mom, she was pretty strict, so we were always like, let's run away. And so I had this map of the mountains that are, you know, we live pretty close to the mountains. There's this waterfall pretty close to our house, and I planned that I was going to run away one time and live above the waterfall. And at night, I'd sneak home and get food and then go back up, and that's where I was going to live. And that's what I dreamed of. That's what I lived for. And so when my family was getting ready for this backpacking trip, nobody was more excited than me. The problem is I was 7 years old, and there was a hard rule that you could not go until you were 8. So I begged, I pleaded, and they would not let me go. They went without me, even though I was more excited than anybody. So while they're gone, I have a babysitter. Her name was Margot, and I remember Top Gun had just come out. My mom never in a million years would have let me watch that movie, but Margot did. And I learned a ton of swear words. And so I actually thought, yeah, served my mom and dad right. I'm now going to start swearing because they wouldn't let me go to the Wind Rivers. But that's what I remember as a 7-year-old. Well, 2 years later, as a 9-year-old, they finally agreed to let me go because the rule was 8 years old. And I remember as we were getting ready for this trip, every single night I'd have to put on a backpack that weighed 15 pounds. And I would have to walk around the neighborhood, and it would progress. I'd get to 2 to 3 to 4 miles because on this backpacking trip, I had to carry my own backpack, and it was 10 miles the first day. And then we would hike to different lakes on the different days. And so I had to prepare for this trip. And so in my eyes, I was so excited. I was ready for this trip. And I got there. The first day was amazing. And that night, everyone had to go and catch fish. We were going to eat fish that night. So we're at this beautiful lake, and I start fishing. And within about 3 minutes, I get my lure stuck some trees or something underneath. And And I was so scared to let anybody know that I wasn't going to bring any fish back. I didn't dare tell anyone that was stuck, but I remember how much of an issue I had made it 2 years earlier, telling everyone that I was ready. I should have been able to go. And here I am on the first night, and I'm already going to be the only guy not to bring fish back. And I didn't. The next day, we went on a hike. It was probably like a 5 or 6 mile hike, but I started to get blisters halfway through that hike. And one of the guys that was on that hike with us, he had all of this stuff there to take care of my blister, help me get ready. Even though I was able to hike over 10 miles the first day, it started to wear on me, and I got these blisters, and he was able to take care of me. During this week-long trip, I realized all I did was backpack in some of my clothes and my sleeping bag, but I didn't carry any of the food, any of my tent, and I started to realize how much more everybody else was doing. But I had the passion and the excitement. I was there, and I was so excited about this, and I've thought about that trip a lot in my life, because it's made me realize that to have something go really well takes more than just being excited. It takes more than just loving it more than everyone else, because no one was as excited about that trip as me. And it actually, I've thought a lot about it when I think about this company, because there is one question that I've probably been asked over 100 times in the last couple of years, and that is basically, what is it that made Zyia so successful? And the question is, what is it? Almost as if it's one thing. And I look back and I realize it isn't one thing. It's so many parts of a recipe that made this thing work. And I want to talk about that today. I want to treat today, basically, like Zach said, it's a state of the company. I want to treat you guys like the stakeholders in this company that you are. You're as important a part of this company as anybody is. And so I wanted to basically say, all right, let's sit down as I would with our board of directors, our shareholders, and say, all right, let's get into the numbers and let's talk about some of this stuff. So as we do this, I want to first, go to this graph that you can see. So I didn't do from the beginning of Zyia. I went back 2 years. So you can see September 2018. The only number I'm going to give you, we try and keep those things kind of confidential, is we were well over $1 million a month by September 2018. So that number one, you know, is well over $1 million a month. And this is our growth chart over the last 2 years. So around 19 to 20, that is April of this year, where we really started to grow significantly. So if you were to talk to any investor, businessman, they would look at that and say, well, how are you able to get through that growth? What type of money did you bring in? There's two types of things that typically kill a company, and that's not enough revenue, not enough sales, or too much. And so I want to talk a little bit about how we were able to do that. Courtney mentioned in his how our cash flow has always been very good. We've never actually had to bring in outside money. We do have a line of credit. We don't use it very often. We've actually dipped into it a couple of times. It's for millions of dollars if we need it. But our cash flow is very strong. For me, it's important that you guys know that, because it's important that you can have confidence in what is going on. So in April of this year, when we more than doubled, we had to quickly place a ton of orders, way more, because we then project a few months in advance, and we could tell that we were going to grow. So we're now ordering for the next 3 to 6 months. So there was a 6-day period where we placed over $100 million in revenue worth of orders in a 6-day period, just to start getting ahead. And then the next 6 days, we placed similar orders, and it was just nonstop, everything we had to do over these few weeks in April, and then it kept going in May. But the reason I bring that up is we have this blueprint of how we run this company. And part of that blueprint is that we have money set aside for days like this. It wasn't just purchasing product for the future, but as Courtney said, we had to then anticipate that we were going to air freight most of this in. Well, COVID didn't help because then there were less planes, and I think I've talked about this a little bit, but the air freight rates were up 4, 5, even 6 times what they normally were. Luckily, we had the money. We had a line of credit that we could dip into. And in April, the government had this PPP program. So the PPP program was set up for companies that were going to need help to get through COVID. So we applied for it. We actually qualified and received several $100,000 from the government. That was at the beginning of April. Well, by the end of April, we could tell we weren't a company that was struggling to keep our employees here. So what we actually did, we met as an executive team and said, I think we need to turn this money back over to the government. So those are the type of things that you don't have to ask yourself, should we do this? We had the money set aside, so we didn't need that money. We gave it back because we knew other companies were in situations where they were having to furlough and lay off employees. So those are the type of things that if you set up a blueprint from the beginning that you're able to do and not have to ask yourself, maybe we should give the money back, but we really need it. So it's something that I was extremely happy about and proud of as a company that we were able to do that. Employees, you're going to see, I'm going to talk a little bit about our employees, but we have over 300 employees now that do so much and care so much about your success. If I were talking with the board of directors, I would talk about our reps. I'm so proud of the reps we have, and I think it's fun to look at this. If you look here, you can kind of see our top 20 states, and you can see last time I spoke, I let you know that Texas was our #1 state. Well, since then, Iowa has actually passed them up, so Iowa is our #1 state in revenue right now, followed by Texas. Then you can kind of just see all of those, but if you look at that percent growth, that is what every one of those top 20 states is growing over the last little bit. It's remarkable. I'm super proud of what you guys are doing, but I think it's fun to kind of see some of those numbers. And then I want to talk a little bit about some awards we've been up for. Normally, we like to fly under the radar. I love talking to someone who actually has never even heard of us. I love being in this channel and talking to somebody who, asks what I do and I explain what we do, and they're like, oh, okay, well, that seems like that would be a fun little thing. Well, good luck. Hopefully you can sell a few pair of leggings this month, and we just kind of smile because we love flying under the radar. But we do also understand that as reps, you need some of those arrows in your quiver to basically explain to people that may not have ever heard of us that we are a legit company. So here's a few awards that we've been up for, and I'll kind of tell you a little bit about how we like flying under the radar. So you see one of those is the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award. Well, Erin is up for that, and she's been going through these interviews, and there was one of them where they're all Zoom interviews because we're doing social distancing, and so they do this call. They ask her all of these questions about the numbers. They've really never heard of us. A couple of judges passed her on to be one of the finals because they're so impressed. And so you've got these 3 new judges who know nothing about Zyia or Aaron Bradley or anything, and they ask her all of these questions. And only one of the judges had been a part of any of these things yet. And so they get done with the call, and on Zoom they think they've hung up, but they actually haven't. And so Aaron can hear a little bit, and one of them just, after she thinks she hung up, just says, wow. And then the other judge says, right? I told you so. And that's kind of the reaction we love to get, that people just don't have a clue. We like to keep it quiet. But for you, here's a few of the things. We actually won the Emerging Elite winner here in Utah. They took all of the companies less than 5 years old and did a bunch of stuff, and we got that. And there's another one that we'll get out to you guys soon that we also were the winners of. And then there's some articles, but I just think it's fun for you to be able to know these things that the company has going on. We also sponsor the Utah Jazz Dancers. That's a fun partnership we have. We do those things so you guys can have a little bit of stuff to show your friends and family that maybe don't know much about us. But it is important that you know that we have a blueprint, that we're extremely disciplined. Courtney, who talked about that discipline and talked about what we do as a company, we are disciplined because we know that that is what keeps this company strong, healthy, safe, and that is to your benefit. So you've been able to hear from some of our employees. You saw Trevor, you saw Rachel, Megan, Kristen, some of our employees that have been helping with the recognition. But we chose them to help with us because they're the model employees that basically do everything they can to help you with your success. When we look at them, they're the hardest workers out there, and they love you. Zach talked a lot about social distancing. Everyone's been doing a great job. Megan, actually, it's almost impossible for her to social distance. She can't, so I'm gonna have to get her and Trevor, taking the COVID test, make sure that, no, I'm playing, but that is what you see from Megan there, her love, her excitement, that's what we have every day here. So Kristen, all of these guys, they care so much about your success, and that's what we love about that. You heard from Holly, what she brings to the table as far as the marketing expertise, but the same thing. She's just a good person. We love having her as part of this team. You've seen Rafa. What I love about Rafa is we probably know more about Canada and its needs than the U.S. because that's what Rafa is. I worked with him for probably 10 years now. And whatever assignment Rafa has, he's going to give it 150%. He won't stop. He cares so much about the success of the people that he's working with. And again, he is a good person. It's one of the reasons why we love having Rafa on this team. Then you also were able to hear from, or you will hear from Quinn. You won't hear from Richard. He's our numbers guy, so we keep him off camera. But I've worked with Quinn and Richard. You saw Lane. Lane, all three of them I've worked with for over 10 years. And Courtney Nelson. Those four have something that in common that is why we've built the executive team around them. And basically, it comes down to four things. All of them have extreme experience in their field and what they do. They do it as well as anybody. They're the hardest working people that I know, and we value that a ton here at this company. And they're honest people. I've worked with a lot of people over the last 20 years in this industry, and honesty is something that, in my opinion, is hard to come by. So when we can find people, good people, honest people that are hardworking and have more experience than anything, that is what we build this team around. And so I hope you have the confidence that I have in these same people. These are the people that are leading us forward. When you have people like that leading these departments, they've got people that love to work for them. They know what to do. And so we've built these amazing teams similar to what I see you guys as leaders out there that have these Zoom calls. I love seeing that, and those are the type of leadership roles and skills that we love in this company. I think a lot of that has to do with why we're finding the success that we have. So as I talk about those employees, I can't not talk about the success of this company without talking about what a pleasure it is to be able to work with Zach and Brenda. They have been the most amazing people to work with since day one. And when I talk about the employees that are passionate and care more about your success than anything, that is Zach and Brenda. They come to work every single day and are willing to work harder than anybody, but more than anything, it's for you. And that's what I love to see, and it spreads to all of our other employees. And when you look at leadership, when you look at the world we're in right now, we've got different forms of leadership out there, and different people like different things. But I think if you look at why so many of us are so willing to work so hard here, it all goes back to the type of leader that we have, and that is Aaron Bradley. So almost got through it. But the way Aaron leads this company makes it so easy for every one of us to basically do whatever it takes to be successful. She leads with humility. She leads with kindness. She would never ask anybody to do something that she wasn't willing to do herself. And so when you have that kind of leader that leads with those qualities, you've got a team that will do whatever it takes for as long as it takes. So that's what we've got here. And so I want to just tie everything back to the experience I had in the Wind Rivers as a 9-year-old. So I believe this company has the blueprint. We're extremely disciplined with that blueprint. We'll do everything we can to make sure that we have the money that we need to continue to grow, that we've got the design, all of that stuff. Basically, like I had on my trip, I had these people that had the maps. They knew where we were fishing. They took care of my blister. We have all of that. But if I look back at that trip as a 9-year-old, I promise you, there's not one person that had more fun on that trip than me. So I'm very, very grateful that I had all of those people that made that trip possible. But at the end of the day, the excitement, the passion, all of that is what makes a difference. And so we will be that guide. We will do all of that here. Just know that we've got that taken care of. At the end of the day, the most important part is you and the passion and excitement that you bring to the table. Thank you for everything. I appreciate all that you do, and have a great summit.
I had him at 18 seconds. I obviously lost. He got to 18 minutes before he started to cry. But honestly, you guys, Jeremiah he talks so much about everybody else and about their achievements and what they do to the company. But I will say it again. Aaron's vision and his work ethic and the brains behind it, we would not be where we are without him. And I know it's all virtual, but seriously, a standing ovation for Jeremiah and what he does. So thank you. Okay, so as we mentioned at the start, we are going to go to lunch right now. We are going to be back at 1:30. You will want to join us right at 1:30. That's when we're going to start talking about the first 4 breakout sessions that we've got. And then we'll go into the next ones, So 1:30 on the dot, you'll want to be back. We've got one more sneak peek for you as we go to the Zyia videos. Have a great lunch, everybody, and we'll see you soon.